farming is no different than any other business. You go into small towns like Dargaville and Northland and you see 7 shops empty in Dargaville. You go to Whangarei, there's empty shops, etc. We're no different to any other retailer.
I guess, though, we're talking about the payout here, but there's also other things to consider, like the floods we've had recently, droughts in recent years.
Yeah.
I mean, in your opinion, do you think it's time that farmers started thinking about going back to perhaps crop and grass-based systems, looking at their stocking numbers and providing more feed on farm instead of relying on supplements?
Well, the interesting thing is that I've got a neighbour who's a very good farmer, and he is typical of the breed of farmer that's in Northland now. There's been a nucleus of them that are starting. Now we had a very bad drought last year. On my farm over the last 2 years of droughts, I had a 48% reduction in production. He had a record year. He averaged 400 milk solids a cow, milking 400 cows. The end of March he did 168,000 milk solids. The year before that, the first drought, his production only decreased 2%. Now, he's of the view, and I think he's right, that if you're going to be farming in places like Northland, you've got to be prepared for these summers. You've got to do crops. You can't farm without some form of supplements going into your cows. And these people that are mitigating the effects of the drought, they're actually doing that very, very well. Of course, it's very nice to have a nice big payout to help pay for the supplements, but it's surprising that even with this payout forecast that it is, those farmers in the main are still doing that. Palm kernel, actually, the spot price the other day was $276 a tonne. Well, that's dropped a fair bit. You know, there's a whole lot of measures you can take. I don't think you can farm in Northland without crops. The only thing that differentiates between me and my neighbour is that he's got, I think, better skills at mitigating the droughts than what we have. But it's like the flu, you know, this farming business, because farmers actually, they love sharing their successes with their neighbours. It's different to a normal business where if you protect your intellectual property and you keep your mouth shut. But in farming, I think the majority of farmers, they share that knowledge. That's the beautiful thing about the dairy industry. There is a great sharing of intellectual property, knowledge, etc. And if one farmer's success is quickly spreads amongst the neighbours. So I think I've seen a big change in my district where people are getting smarter, particularly the young ones. You know, they're into the grass walks. We're into grass walks now. My wife does it every week. I've actually just following my neighbour. We're up 27% in production, and all I'm doing is that I've actually he has come out along to my property. He spent 3 hours with me. The new grasses are very good that they've got now. They're developing these new grasses like barley, very expensive grasses, but very good for Northland. And I think farmers, you're going to find dairy farmers, they're going to be looking at cow energy, the specs of the grass, because these new grasses have got high megajoules of energy, and you know, so we're sort of picking up on it. We've you know, on my own farm where we've had a dramatic improvement this season, simply because of the sharing of that knowledge. So
in terms of the future, is that the way to go? Grasses, crops, as opposed to, say, palm kernel, bringing that in from overseas?
Well, people are bringing, you know, palm kernel actually is a pretty hard product to beat, because you can feed your cows molasses, and you can, if you feed them too much, you can kill your cows. Sometimes if you feed too much maize to your cows, you kill them. But that palm kernel, it is pretty bulletproof, you know, for the value of the money, and pretty hard to beat.
Even with the new grasses that are coming?
Well, if you supplement that with the new grasses, it works out very well, and it's a pretty reasonably, it's not that dear. But this is what's sort of happening in farming now. People are changing, and you go to places like Ruai, and that new organisation is buying all those farms up down there. Already you can see improvements. You know what I mean? Like, dairying is an involvement of ideas.
So keep up to date with us at KLTV. I'm Joanne Speechley. Thank you for coming in today.